Hey everyone, Best Sakia NA here. So usually when I just upload a game, right? When I just upload a match, I just upload it without commentary. I know people just kind of like hey, look at the micro, look at the skills, or look at this weird deck, or look at playing an optimal deck optimally, right? Or the predictive plays that I'm usually known for, and I just kind of let the gameplay speak for itself when I do the recorded videos, and then when when I make content for my stream, I do more commentary. I'll have the webcam on, that kind of stuff. But I have the webcam turned off and stuff today, and I'm just trying to show, I guess, just in a game that I think summarizes, an individual match that I think summarizes how genuinely awful the current meta is. It's maybe the worst that I've seen the meta ever be. There's been some other really bad metas in the past, so maybe this is like second or third worst. Maybe it's not the first worst, but this one's really bad. So yeah, I really thought it was important to preface what's going on with this replay. So here's a deck that you could be playing right now, but I mean, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. You just put maybe Death Stalkers, Gunners probably, Barracks, a nice Sabers. You have Wyvern, or you have Jinn, and then, or you could have any other AoE. I mean, it could be Penny. You could have Crow if you want to be more aggressive. You can use something like Torchwick or Winter or whatever to just snipe opponent Crows, and Shadowblake is a tech. He's not particularly strong, just it's a tech card here against the meta. And then Shadowblake just because sometimes you just need to play something because you don't start out with Barracks Jinn and then your opponent does and you're behind for the rest of the game. But, yeah, so let's just look really quick and try to analyze what an average game looks like with this meta. And talk about why it's so bad. Because it's awful. It is one of the worst metas I think I've ever seen, and I don't understand anyone that currently enjoys this. It's kind of awful, and it goes against a lot of the core tenets of this game, which at least from my perspective is skilled use of aura or macro over time, your economy versus your opponent, and economizing that, right? And then you combine that with some low to high micro cards. You have cards like Shadowblake, Crow, Atom's a great example, Twins, really cool and interesting designs in this game that's clearly styled after these kinds of tower defense, Clash Royale kind of games. And yeah, we'll talk about that really quick. I'm hoping that they'll just be, we can just go right into it. So here we go. It's my little 3-minute intro. So, yeah, let's talk about this. I even have the music turned off just so we can focus on the game, right? So here we go. So I'm against this player, G Sharp. Now, in another meta, even though I have a giant level advantage over this player, in another meta, hypothetically, if there'd actually be real micro or decisions, you can outplay people with higher levels than you. So right now, I play Barracks, and obviously you understand the opponent just looking and going like, what the heck am I going to do against this high-level Barracks? So already my Gunners are stacking up here. They're trying their best to play like Neon and then maybe a Shadowblake, because they have an aggressive deck that doesn't really fight this all that well, right? So they play Weiss. And on reaction, Jinn wasn't even down, and on reaction, I see the Weiss, I can just wait until the ability's almost going off and still play Jinn, and then use Jinn to neutralize that Weiss completely. So just on that interaction alone, I'm essentially 1 aura ahead. And I can also have this Jinn up again for another ability. She can be used to block Neon, and that's why I put Jinn so far forward. I figured I wouldn't get good use out of the ability, the second ability, so instead I just used it to block Neon. And now, we have Weiss charging forward. Now, we could use Jinn there to stop her. We could have rotated really fast to stop her. But I felt as though it was just better to just build up another attack. And you notice, we haven't even talked about the amount of firepower that I had from just Barracks just walking forward. And it's invincible because I have Jinn and I have AoE to support it with, like, Wyvern. Yeah. Their turret's gone. So we just play Torch on the opposite end to counter their Shadowblake and can push aggressively forward. Torch can now tank. They play Squad. That unfortunately does nothing on the right-hand side there. We have some Gunners up, and just passively does not really doing anything. I'm not microing. I don't need to. Why would you play a deck that ever requires micro on RWBY AMT Arena? That's clearly not why millions of people installed this game to begin with. Anyways, once again, you just see Jinn completely stop twice on reaction. We can't even cover all of the stupidity with this. Like, I play Ice Wyverns just because it's like, whatever, it's a tank. Here it is, it's a tank that is split into two, so you can't, like, just winter it or something, or freeze it, or torch. So it's 2 targets, so you split up the value, and it ignores enemy units and just goes for the turret, so you can't just, like, distract it with something, which is also a core tenet of the game. And then even worse, you can't swarm it, because when they die, they AoE. And you can't use something with a high attack power against it, because when they die, they slow the attack power! They slow the attack speed of the unit. Oh god, Ice Wyvern, or Ice Saber and Wyvern, and Jinn, and it just hurts my head. It hurts my head that, like, anyone finds this enjoyable. It's just mind-blowingly bad. It is one of the worst states of meta I have ever seen in the game, where you're encouraged to start out in your opening hand with Barracks and Jinn, and to hope your opponent does not have Barracks in hand, or any form of AoE in hand in their opening hand, right? And then you just push and do free damage because nothing can hold that back. And then if your opponent tries to play like a big tank and push through, I mean, you can do whatever the heck you want. You can Jinn your own turrets to make it so that big tank can't do anything. You can play Torchwick against those tanks now with this deck, because again, it's a tech against Crow and stuff, but if someone tries to play like big bodies, you can still yank them. If your opponent's playing like a lot of air power, I mean, you can just concentrate it all into one lane and Wyvern it, and then if they Jinn, I mean, that's fine, and they slowed down the push, and you probably have enough time to play more Shadow Blakes, you probably have enough time to Wyvern the other lane or something. Oh god. Yeah, all of this, I mean, you can replace Wyvern for Penny, you can replace Torch for Crow, and those cards aren't, like, Torch and Crow aren't even individually that crazy or strong or anything. They're alright, but it's really just the crazy strength level cards in this game. It's Rex, Jinn, Wyvern, and Ice Saber are just like straight up ruining the game. It just feels miserable to play. And yeah, I mean, you guys can see I'm just constantly just starring people nonstop. And it's awful. I like playing more fun decks, obviously. I mean, when you look through my cards and stuff, I mean, I like playing, like, again, like Nora, Crow, and Adam I streamed a lot, although you still have to use Ice Sabers because they're absolutely broken. I'd rather use a card like Ice Weiss, it's a lot more interesting than a card like Jinn. Or like this deck, obviously Rain popularized it, but Rain and I used to play this a lot back in the day, where you stack value by just playing a Crow and then sending it back, and then eventually you send in a bunch of AK-135s with Raven on Crow's location. That's fun, that's interesting, but that deck's garbage now because it's so easy to push that off. You can just Jinn stuff to freeze it, buy you tons of time, and then just play like Mines or whatever. It doesn't even matter what you play. Play Ice Sabers. Why not? I mean, everyone will do damage to the Ice Sabers instead of the turrets, and the Ice Sabers detonate and just kill everything. It doesn't matter. You know, or like Twins, man. Remember Twins?
Whatever.
Remember Twins? Remember, like, how many awesome matchups you'd have of, like, Flashy playing Twins versus, like, Shadow playing, like, Brangle or whatever? Like, that's all gone. Like, that meta doesn't exist anymore. Nothing matters except for playing Barracks and Jinn all day. There's no micro anymore. There's the very mild, like, 2-part micro here of like, well, yeah, Shadow Blake is micro, and she's a really cool design. But you're only playing her because it's like, man, I gotta play something else on rotation that survives AoE. And then again, like I said, you could play like a Crow or something, but you're not using the Crow in an interesting way now. Like, you used to use Crow in a really interesting way. Like, you'd have Crow synergize with Adam and Nora, and you'd have this like really cool like round micro trading force where you try to like trade up value. You'd have like really cool fights in the middle of the map and trade up on that value using their passive and active abilities. And yeah, now Crow is just like, I don't know, can I fly over and hit their racks, or are they just going to Jinn at him in mid-flight and I'm going to lose the ability? And it is what it is. I don't know. This is the meta that people want, right? This is what people want. Because, I mean, the top-level players have been complaining about this for years. Mid-level players are now noticing, and they're complaining about it. And now lower-level players, the more casual players, they're also noticing because they're forced up into Arena 8 with the way the trophy system works, so I don't let's bring the right deck up so we can talk about this properly here. But yeah, like I don't know, right? If the casual players hate it and the mid level players hate it and the top level players hate it because we don't like playing this deck and winning all the time, and we don't like this being the only thing that you're allowed to play, right? Because if you play anything else, you play a fun deck, like sure you'll win against pretty much everyone else in the game, but if you run into this deck and you're playing that fun deck, you have a very good chance of losing, even if you're as much as like if you're like the level of like Nirvana, where like he could be like 3 levels or 4 levels below someone and win, or Rain Buckets, where Rain Buckets is getting like, you know, level 1 alt accounts into like, you know, past like 3,000, 4,000 trophies. You could be like that level of player, and if you're playing like an interesting fun deck like this one, right, and you're playing that against something like this, I mean, you're probably just going to lose. That's just a fact. It doesn't matter if the opponent is way worse at the game. Their cards just give way better value, require a lot less mental focus because you're not microing, you're not macroing. You're just making like straight up like just the simplest possible decisions of like, oh, my opponent played an AoE. I can just react by playing Jinn. Oh, they played another AoE. Okay, I guess I just push with Ice Wyverns and Gunners and stuff in another lane because now they have no AoE. Or if they've stacked all of their AoE cards and all of their army in one lane, then I can just AoE back with Wyvern, and then they need to fight off that solo Ice Saber, or they take even more turret damage. And I took less turret damage because I used Jinn to stop it. And their only recourse is, oh, they played they played Wyvern, and I guess I'll also play Jinn to stop the turret from doing damage. So yeah, I don't know. It's just awful. It's just awful. It is so bad. And when people are like, man, why don't you stream this game all the time? And it's like, yeah, I used to. When this game was fun and it had an interesting meta, I used to. When there was like variety, like, oh man, this guy's really good at Crow. And like, oh man, this guy's really good at Swarm. And oh, this person, they play a really, really weird deck where they play like Nora and Paladin. And they drop the Paladin, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to play some stuff against that. And then they drop the Nora, and she's used to knock their defenses away. Like, that's interesting. Now it's just what variant of Barracks, Jinn, and Ice Saber, the good cheap cards, and an AoE or two, or a way to stop Shadowblake and Crow and big bodies like Torch, and that's it. Nothing else is playable. There is not a single other playable deck on ladder right now, which is also why you see communities like Evernight that are now built up around not playing the game the way that the devs have made it. Like, you'll have entire communities that are like, okay, all of the stupid cards are banned. All of the insanely overpowered cards that completely break the game's mechanics in half, they're all banned. You can play against other players in an environment where you know that people physically cannot play these decks, and surprise, it's a lot more fun, and people enjoy it a lot more. And I'm confident that if ladder was like that, even with level disparity, even with like, oh man, I'm a level 9 and I'm running into a level 13, I guarantee you'd be having more fun if you were playing a deck that you knew you could express your skill with, right? If you're playing a deck where you're like, well man, this is going to be a really, really uphill struggle against this level advantage, but at least it's not, oh, this guy's level 9 or 10 or 11 barracks against my level, 7 or 8. Like, at least it's not that, right? Like, just raw value where your gunners can't even compete. Even with like a 1 level difference, they usually can't compete. Like, if I have a level 9 barracks and your opponent has a level 8 barracks, I'm probably just going to win that game because you physically can't come back on that value. And like, it's so different from like, man, if I have a level 5 Crow and you have a level 4 Crow, like, Crow still teleports, cooldown's the same, he still probably AoEs the right stuff, he can still jump in and do damage to a turret. He's like functionally such a similar card, but Barracks level advantage and level difference is such a joke of just like, oh, my gunners literally have to 3-shot yours and yours 2-shot mine. So like, on default trades, that you just straight up win every single trade that's going to be happening across the map over and over and over again. Every single time our two gunners collide with each other. Yeah, it's a joke. So yeah, I don't know. I hope it gets fixed, but here it is. Here is my standard 15 minutes YouTube video. It's usually about the amount of time that these videos go for, I guess. So it's probably a good time to end it here. I'll be uploading this, and yeah, I don't know. I hope everyone enjoys just seeing top players play this forever, and mid players play this forever, and casual players play this forever too. Because God knows they this game can't possibly survive if it just had some actual variety. Like, man, can you imagine? Like, oh man, this person's playing Doom Drop, and but I'm playing like Adam, so and Nora. Maybe I can like Nora their Doom Drops away, and then go in for some cool trades with Adam. And oh man, they switched from dropping their AKs to now they're just dropping them defensively versus Adam. Oh man, I gotta figure out what I'm doing then. Maybe I should stop dropping Adam then and start using like some Ice Weiss Nora stuff and just go pure tempo, sneak in a crow every once in a while. And like you're thinking, right? Or sure, I don't know. Maybe it would be better. Maybe the game would be better if we just played Barracks and Jinn and Ice Saber forever. That's probably a better game, absolutely. And just no thinking, no micro, no macro, just the same matchups and the same decks forever. I hope every single one of those cards gets significantly changed or reworked, and barring that, since I mean, God knows they don't want to rework cards. Sure, just nerf them into non-existence forever. The game's better without them. All right, see y'all next time on Ladder.